They say that a getaway to a tropical paradise is the ultimate cure for a failing relationship. But sometimes when you take two people who have stopped communicating and place them in an isolated, luxury bubble, the silence doesn't heal, it screams. My marriage to David was held together by a thin, fraying thread of duty. 6 months ago, we spent our entire savings on a secluded villa on a remote island, desperate to fix what was broken. I thought we were there to find our way back to each other. I didn't know that within 7 days, I would find a hidden phone in his suitcase, catch him whispering to shadows in the middle of the night, and realize that the man I married was a complete stranger. Our perfect vacation wasn't the rescue we needed. It was the final, brutal autopsy of our love. Everything about the villa was perfect: the marble floors, the private infinity pool, the endless view of the turquoise ocean. But the moment we arrived, the atmosphere was suffocating. David wouldn't look me in the eye. He was constantly checking his watch, stepping out onto the balcony to take work calls that lasted for hours, and locking his briefcase with a precision that bordered on obsession. I tried to initiate conversations. I tried to be the wife he remembered, but every touch felt like an intrusion. He was present in body, but his mind was somewhere else, trapped in a cold, impenetrable fortress. By the third night, the luxury began to feel like a cage. While David slept, or pretended to, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was being hidden from me. It wasn't just coldness, it was a deliberate, calculated detachment. I sat on the edge of the pool, staring at the moonlight reflecting on the water, and saw David standing on the far end of the terrace. He was holding a small, glowing device, his voice a low, urgent murmur. He wasn't talking to a client. He was reciting numbers, a sequence, and when he turned and saw me, the look in his eyes wasn't guilt or surprise. It was pure, freezing fear. I realized then that our trip wasn't about us at all. We weren't here to save our marriage. We were here to hide something. And David was terrified that I was finally starting to look too closely. By the fourth day, the facade of a romantic getaway completely shattered. David went into the village for supplies and left his laptop on the nightstand. It wasn't locked. A simple, curious look turned into a descent into a financial nightmare. His browser was open to a secure interface, an encrypted ledger of assets, offshore accounts, and a complex flow of money that didn't match anything he had ever told me about his job. It wasn't just simple fraud, it was a systematic, institutionalized draining of our joint savings and a series of high-risk gambles that had left us effectively bankrupt for months. I sat there staring at the screen, my hands trembling. The work calls weren't work. They were negotiations. He was liquidating every asset we owned to pay off a debt to people who didn't accept apologies. The realization hit me like a physical blow. He had brought us here to this remote, isolated island not to rekindle our love, but because he needed a happy family front to secure one final, massive loan from a shady international lender. We were the props in his final gamble. When he returned to the room, smelling of sea salt and fear, he saw me holding his laptop. He didn't try to lie. He just stood there, his shoulders slumping, and for the first time, I saw the man behind the mask, a desperate, broken gambler who had traded his family's future for a chance to keep playing the game. Thursday was the day the island felt truly hostile. We were trapped in a place where no one knew us, and David was becoming increasingly unstable. He kept whispering that if I kept quiet, if I just played along for 2 more days, the money would come through and we would be free. Free to do what? I screamed at him, the luxury villa now feeling like a tomb. He couldn't answer. He just paced, his eyes darting to the windows every time a boat engine roared in the bay. He was waiting for a call, and the stress was eating him alive. He started drinking heavily, and his fragile composure snapped. He didn't hurt me, but his behavior became terrifyingly erratic. He smashed his phone against the terrace wall, convinced that they were listening through the microphone. He threw his passport into the pool. I watched him from the shadows of the living room, realizing that my husband was experiencing a total psychotic break caused by the sheer weight of his deceptions. I had to get out. I grabbed my bag, but when I reached for the villa's front door, it was locked from the outside. He had secured us in. I wasn't just his wife anymore. I was his hostage. He needed me for the happy family photo when the lenders arrived. and he was willing to keep me there by any means necessary. The nightmare reached its peak on Friday night. A small boat docked at our private pier, and two men in suits arrived at the villa. I watched from the balcony, hidden by the heavy curtains, as David walked out to meet them. The atmosphere was deadly. There was no joy, no negotiation, only cold, sharp demands. They weren't there to give him a loan. They were there to collect on his soul. David was begging, his voice cracking, clutching at the hem of one of the men's jackets. He looked small, pathetic, and fundamentally destroyed. I didn't wait for him to come back inside. While they were busy, I scrambled to the balcony, leaped onto the trellis of vines that covered the villa's exterior, and descended toward the beach. I ran through the sand, my bare feet bleeding, heading toward the small resort village. Every rustle in the palm trees sounded like a footstep. I felt like prey. I managed to reach the local Port Authority building, my clothes torn, my skin covered in scratches, and pounded on the door until a night guard finally opened it. I didn't speak the language, but I held up the printed ledger of his accounts that I had managed to pull onto a thumb drive. I knew the documents themselves were my only protection. They weren't just financial records. They were the proof of an international crime that would put David and his lenders behind bars for life. The aftermath was silent, cold, and final. By the time the authorities reached the villa, David was alone, sitting by the pool, waiting. He didn't fight back. He didn't try to explain. He just stared at the ocean, a man who had lost everything because he had tried to build a life on a foundation of shifting sand. We were divorced before the month was out. I never saw him again, and I never returned to that island. But the scars, the emotional, financial, and psychological scars, remained for a long time. Looking back, I realized that our marriage didn't die on that island. It died years before, when we stopped being partners and started being actors in a play we were both too afraid to quit. The island was just the stage where the final act played out. People often ask me if I regret going on that trip. I don't. That vacation was the most expensive, devastating, and necessary lesson of my life. It stripped me of my illusions, my security, and my pride, but it also gave me back my truth. I lost a husband, a home, and a future I thought I wanted. But in the ruins, I finally found the clarity to be alone, and for the first time in 10 years, I was completely unapologetically free.